Okay, hello everybody. Hope everybody's doing good, staying safe. Starting to head down the home stretch here, so we're gonna have us a dates day, um, and so ideally, we'd be in class and I'd give you a blank sheet, um, and then we'd sit here and memorize them together. All right, but we don't have that situation. So I've just got the sheet with the dates filled in here. So, I mean, what I'd like you to do is on a sheet of paper, copy it down. And there's going to be I'm going to talk about them all. There's going to be a real temptation. I'm going to take about 30 minutes. I've got my, it's 8:46 right now, so I'm planning on getting through about 9:15. Gonna be a temptation, to fast forward or whatever. Just copy it down and send it in. You get credit for it, yada yada yada. But try to kind of think about it as I go over it, okay? And maybe let's go. I don't know, maybe 10 at a time here, okay? And you see that what World War II. Now we're not going past World War II since. So what D-Day is 76. So we're only doing 1 to 76. Okay. All right. So 1492, that's Columbus. Hey, he's sailing for Spain. He went back and forth several times. Remember, he thought he was in Asia. That's why he called everybody there Indians. Didn't treat the Indians very well. The Black Legend's going to come out of the Spanish treatment of the natives. All right, 1558. That's the Spanish Armada, so it's kind of a turning point. So the Spanish had, the empire, the biggest, strongest empire of the world until along comes England under Queen Elizabeth, and so then England can get in on the Exploration Act after they kind of start to eclipse Spanish power. So remember, it's like a Protestant wind that blew the flaming ships toward the Spanish Armada. And the English interpreted that God was on the side of the Protestants. Okay, Jamestown, 1607. Hey, John Smith, John Rolfe, indentured servants. You don't work, you don't eat. Tobacco, Pocahontas, Powhatan Indians. What the 3 Ds: disease, disunity, disposability did in the Indians. Tobacco was a big deal. Saved Jamestown, ruined the natives, and resulted in slavery. All right, so I mean that Jamestown is just a good story and just pretty dang foundational economically, really. The South, the Chesapeake colonies. Remember, they're the Chesapeake, founded for economic reasons. All right, Quebec's up there in Canada. Remember, it's going to be Champlain. He's going to be friends with Algonquin Indians, the Huron, and accidentally make the Iroquois mad. But there weren't as many English that settled there, so they had to make nice with the Indians. All right, you're working your way up to New England. So the Pilgrims, should I stay or should I go? They're the ones that left the Church of England, believed in predestination. Bradford got elected governor, 39 times? They eventually got absorbed by Massachusetts Bay. 1630, Massachusetts Bay. Winthrop, city on a hill. His sermon was the model of Christian charity. It's going to be a perfect place, but you can't tolerate difference because the crops might not grow. Yeah, God's decided whether you're going to heaven or hell or not. But Ann Hutchinson and Roger Williams, they don't fit in, so, they got to go somewhere else. All right, 1676, back down to Jamestown. That's Bacon's Rebellion, really kind of a turning point in Jamestown history, Southern history, because it had been indentured servants was the folks doing the tobacco work, but they're out there on the frontier and they're burning down Jamestown, and so the conclusion's reached after, hey, remember what? Bacon died of disease. That indentured servants are too much trouble, so you're going with African slaves who can't, they can't blend into society if they run away, and you're going to make it permanent so that they won't want land one day. Okay, Salem, 1692, so it's the kind of the cultural thing. They got carried away, they're, and maybe the the lower class, picking on the upper class, like a resentment kind of thing. The girls from the edge of town out there on the frontier. might be that economic explanation. And, nobody will stand up to them. If you stand up to them and say, hey, so-and-so's not a witch, they're going to say, well, you're a witch. They got carried away and attacked the governor's wife. Okay, let's see, 1733, Georgia's founded. That's Oglethorpe, the Noble Experiment, no slavery. Also, as for debtors, it's also a buffer colony. Okay, we're pretty familiar with that. Georgia, right up there with Pennsylvania, is kind of a noble founding. All right, 1730 is the First Great Awakening. Remember that acronym, POPE? So, predestination is questioned. You got the old lights being challenged by the new lights. Privilege being challenged by the forces of equality and emotional religion. All right, and your two big guys are Whitefield and Jonathan Edwards, Sinners in the Hands of an Angry God. And you remember that, Franklin empties his pockets. The Enlightenment thinker Franklin emptied his pockets when he heard Whitefield. All right, so what if I did this? What if I did this? I wonder if I could do this. So let's try it like this. Boom, 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 boom. Is that going to work? All right. That's going to take a while, and we're going to have an hour long. That's not going to... I'm sorry. I should have figured out a better way to do that. All right. So I'm going to put Great Awakening back. But you know what to do. Fold your paper over. So take your paper and fold it over between the date and the event. And, honor system, get it learned. All right, next 10. 7 sets of 10. 7.5 sets of 10. Okay, so now we're looking at what? Colonial stuff. All right, so, and you might put your hand right beside the dates, put it over the event, something like that. Okay, 1754, 1763, the French and Indian War. Hey, George Washington's fighting in. They're fighting over the Ohio Valley. William Pitt's the hero. When Quebec's captured, it's over with. It's called the 7 Years' War in Europe. Treaty of Paris ends it. What else? France has got to get out. England controls things, but they're in debt. All right, so then you got the laws. Proclamation of 1763. Can't move west. Daniel Boone was a man. Sugar Act. Enforced the Navigation Acts. The Stamp Act is a tax on paper. Taxation representation. Sons of liberty. Daughters of liberty. Boycott. 1766 Declaratory Act. Yeah, they backed off of the Stamp Act, but they say we can too pass these laws if we want to. Okay, 1767 Townsend Act. Glass, lead, paper, paint, tea. Glass, lead, paper, paint, tea. It's gonna... Remember, it was an indirect tax, an external tax. You paid it at the dock rather than a direct tax like a Stamp Act. So notice that the reaction takes a little longer. It takes a little longer for the colonists to get mad. 1770, the Boston Massacre. All right, so they get rid of the tax on everything except the tax on tea. Then the British East India Company gets the monopoly, so that's the Tea Act. Boston Tea Party, however, what do we think? $6 million worth of tea in Boston Harbor. All right, so the Intolerable Act, 1774, closing the ports and the legislatures. First Continental Congress meets. And, hey, they're storing up weapons and making demands. Okay, hey, cover it up with your hand, fold it over, however you want to do it. Memorize it. All right, okay, next set. Let's see how I'm doing on my time. 10 minutes. 10 minutes. So we're 10, so 10 minutes. So 20 minutes. 10 minutes for 20. So that's going to be 20 minutes for 4. That's looking pretty good. Okay. Next, 21 to 30. All right, Lexington and Concord. Hey, Lexington, what are they coming for? Sam Adams, John Hancock. Shot heard around the world. Concord, what are they coming for? The guns, all right? And they get, they get kind of guerrilla warfared on the way back from Concord. Things don't go as well for the British. So the score's 1-1 at the end of that. All right, Declaration of Independence. We hold these truths to be self-evident, all men are created equal. Government's supposed to protect your rights. If it doesn't, you get rid of it. King George done all this bad stuff, so we got to get rid of him. All right, it's the Committee of Five. Jefferson, Franklin, Adams, Livingston, Sherman. Okay, common sense. Ooh, I don't think we talked about common sense when we did like the periods. All right, what does Thomas Paine say? Hey, the big shouldn't be ruled by the little. They're too far away, and 'tis time to part because blood has been shed. All right, so the common sense reasons. All right, the Constitution was written in 1787 after the Articles of Confederation failed. I got the war. All right, 1775, 1781. All right, what do we think? Saratoga's a turning point. Before that, you got the Battle of Bunker Hill. Don't shoot till you see the whites of their eyes. The Loyalists and the Patriots. Franklin goes over there, gets French help. Battle of Saratoga makes a big difference. Yorktown's the last battle. Cornwallis doesn't show up. All right, Treaty of Paris. It's doubling the size of the United States. That's 1783. We're going to treat the Loyalists good, but the British are supposed to get out of the forts in the Northwest Territory. Okay, so that's a treaty. All right, 26, Constitution. All right, so the Articles of Confederation was too weak. Well, you got the Virginia Plan, New Jersey Plan, they put together in the Great Compromise with a bicameral legislature, 3/5 compromise, slave trade compromise. All right, Washington gets elected unanimously, 1788. 1793, 94, you got the Whiskey Rebellion, it's Western Pennsylvania. They're saying tax on whiskey. Remember, it's part of the Hamiltonian program. He's going to assume the debts of the states, pay off the debts to other countries. That way, hey, the states, the movers and the shakers, and the rest of the world, kind of respect us and be rooting for us. So there's a tariff and there's a tax on whiskey, and so the frontier farmers get mad, but here comes George Washington with 13,000 troops, and so poof, they disappear. All right, Alien Sedition Act, so that's Adams, his claim to fame. So he kept us out of war with France, XYZ affair, but he gets mad at the French for talking bad about him. That's the Sedition Act, doesn't want him voting against the Alien Act. Got to be here 14 years to be a citizen. All right, 30s, 1800, the Revolution of 1800. All right, Jefferson beats Adams. And you put quotes, you put revolution in quotes because he really didn't change all that much. So remember, Adams and Jefferson have this debate over strict construction, loose construction. Jefferson's a small government, strict construction guy, but then as president, he kind of acts like a federalist, especially with that Louisiana Purchase. All right, but I'm stopping. All right, checking my time. It's about 5 minutes. I kind of like our pacing. All right, I'm going to stop, study it. Okay, here we go. Next. Thank you. Next. So Jefferson's going to be Louisiana Purchase. Doubling sides of the country. He kind of saw it as unconstitutional, but he didn't have time to amend the Constitution. It's the Valley of Democracy. It's the permanent frontier for the common man, the yeoman farmer. That's his hero. So he's willing to live with the hypocrisy of it, so that the yeoman farmer have this permanent frontier. Also, you're keeping European countries out of North America. All right, you don't want France in North America. Okay, got it, real cheap. Okay, sends Lewis and Clark out there. All right, 1807, impressment of the Chesapeake. Remember, impressment is a cause of the War of 1812. That's the most famous impressment. Let me see. Okay, so you got the War of 1812. Two causes of the war is going to be impressment, and then the British are giving guns to Indians. Remember, the Indians are Tecumseh He's got his buddy the Prophet, and they're either going to fight or they want their own. They don't want to deal with American culture, so he's got Prophet Town there. The heroes are Harrison and Jackson. 1814 is the Battle of New Orleans. Remember, Washington, D.C. got burned. Star Spangled Banner was written after the Battle of Fort McHenry. All right. Let's see. Can we remember lyrics? It's time to sing. Sing with me. I'm listening. I'm fast forwarding in time, and I'm listening to you to see if you're singing with me. Okay, in 1814, we took a little trip along with Colonel Jackson down the mighty Mississippi. We took a little bacon and we took a little beans. I don't think that's right. And we fought with the Colonel Jackson in the town of New Orleans. Fought the bloody British in the town of New Orleans. I do not know that song well. But remember, the fun part of it was the chorus, because it's set up low for like guys to sing. We fired our guns and the British kept a-coming. Wasn't nigh as many as there was a while ago. We fired once more and they began a-running. On down the Mississippi to the Gulf of Mexico. 2, 3. They ran through the rambles and they ran through the something. Then they ran so fast that something couldn't go. And they ran da-ba-da-ba-da-ba-da-ba-da. But it was a fun song. All right. Let me see what we got. Let's see. Missouri Compromise. All right. So, hey, era of good feelings. We don't have the period after the War of 1812 is this era of good feelings, but not feeling real good about the spread of slavery, so Henry Clay's got to save the day and negotiate a compromise there. All right, 3630, no slavery above 3630. Maine's a free state. Missouri's coming in as a slave state. 3630 is Missouri's southern border. All right, put off the Civil War by a generation, by 40 years really. All right, also whether or not Latin American countries are going to be recolonized. So the Monroe Doctrine is y'all stay on y'all side of the world. Remember, Britain kind of enforced it for us. All right, John Quincy Adams gets elected president. What? 3 guys were in the House, so it was going to be, Crawford was 6, so it was going to be Clay or Jackson or Quincy Adams, and so it comes down Jackson, Quincy Adams, and Clay throws his support behind Quincy Adams because he thinks Jackson's nuts. And Jackson accuses him of a corrupt bargain. All right, what number is that? 1824. All right, so Jackson gets elected a landslide in 1828. Hey, the common man's got the right to vote in most states by 1828. He ran his campaign. He ran on Indian removal. So takes office 1829. The Indian Removal Act gets passed 1830. Hey, Worcester versus Georgia, Cherokee Nation versus Georgia, Worcester versus Georgia. John Marshall's made a decision, let him enforce it. 18,000 left, 5,000 died the week. Couldn't make it. All right. 33 is the nullification crisis. All right. The tariff from hell, the tariff from abominations. Seen as basically a tax on slavery, tax on slave clothes, just jacking up prices for Southerners. So Calhoun's going to nullify it. Jackson's threatening to hang Calhoun, who's threatening secession with South Carolina, and Clay negotiates a compromise tariff. All right, so that's 40. All right, take a look at them. Pause. Study it. Hit the pause button. Okay, next. And that's fun. I know you ain't got it. I can't say, I can't make you. But it's fun to memorize this stuff, I think. All right. Okay, McKenzie, you got a strange idea of fun. You're a strange fella. Yeah, all right. All right, number 41 to 50. All right, 41, 1837, Panic of 1837. These panics are always caused by speculation, in this case, land speculators. And when the land doesn't sell, they can't pay back the banks close, that sort of thing. All right, it was also Jackson's fault, those pet banks giving out the unwise loans. Van Buren paid the price for it. Van Buren is to the Panic of 1837, kind of what Hoover is to the Great Depression. Probably wasn't their predecessors' fault rather than theirs. They played the price politically. All right, Polk got elected. Manifest Destiny, 1844. He's going to annex Texas and Oregon. He's an underdog. He defeats Clay. He's young Hickory. He's a Democrat, Tennessee Democrat, just like Jackson. All right, send Dangles, old rough and ready route down there between the two rivers, between the Nueces and the Rio Grande. And so finally the Mexico attacks. And so, hey, American blood's been shed on American soil, according to Polk. Lincoln says, I want to see the spot where it was shed. All right, what? The heroes, Los Niños heroes. Fuss and Feathers goes down there and takes Mexico City, Chapultepec. All right, where the cadets held out as long as they could. All right, let's see. 44. Zoop. Okay, compromise 1850. All right, so can you remember all 5 parts? California's free state. Utah, New Mexico, they're going to decide later. Texas is losing land. You got a Fugitive Slave Act. All right, and no slave trade in Washington, D.C. So 5 parts. Nobody's really satisfied. It's Clay's last stand. All right, Kansas-Nebraska Act puts slavery above 3630. Stephen Douglas kind of screws up. He thinks, that he can kind of be neutral on slavery. He's going to get elected president because the North will like his railroad, the South will like the expansion of slavery. Leaves 1855 to Bleeding, Kansas. John Brown, the Potawatomi Massacre, hacking up pro-slavery folks with broadswords. 1857 is the Dred Scott case. Hey, 1856, Brooks Kane Sumner. All right, 1857, Dred Scott case. Slave is property. You can take it anywhere you want. Therefore, according to Abraham Lincoln, there's no such thing as popular sovereignty. There's no way for territories to limit slaves. All right, so they're having those Lincoln-Douglas debates. Running for Senate in Illinois in 1858. All right, 1859, John Brown doing his thing, raiding the arsenal, Harper's Ferry. It was a lousy place for a slave rebellion because it's in the mountains. He thought it could hide in those mountains. That place became part of West Virginia, which seceded from Virginia. But it really divided the country, right? So he's a martyr in the North. He's a terrorist in the South. Lincoln gets elected, not as an abolitionist. He's against the spread of slavery. So you got the war, 61 to 60. Ooh, so that's 50. All right, stop. Tell yourself that story. We're running up to the Civil War. Okay, 25 more to go. All right. So 51, that's going to be the Civil War, 1861-65. First shot's Fort Sumter. Remember, things go bad for the North and the Eastern Theater. You got Lee whooping up on old Timon McClellan in the Western Theater. Grant's doing a lot better. Battle of Gettysburg. Lee's second attempt to get Northern Territory and to get British help after Antietam hadn't worked out. Vicksburg, Grant surrounded, laying siege to Vicksburg. The people having to eat rats. And it's on the Mississippi, which is part of the Anaconda Plan. All right, Lincoln gives the Gettysburg Address, November 19th. 1863, we hear highly resolved that these honored dead shall not have died in vain, that the nation under God shall have a new birth of freedom. All right, Reconstructions, 1865 to 1877. All right, don't really have any specific dates in there. Radical Reconstruction start in 1866 because Johnson is such a bad. He's such a bad politician. The Military Reconstruction Act was 1867. All right. Panic of 1873 makes the, Southerners don't like civil rights. The bottom rail top thing. Don't like radical Reconstruction. The Klan is fighting against the 15th Amendment, and carpetbaggers and scalawags are seen as corrupt. Then the economy goes bad, so that's bad for the Republicans. So in 1877, they have the Compromise. You end Reconstruction, and Hayes, the Republican, gets to be president. All right, 1882, Chinese Exclusion Act. So they're building their Transcontinental Railroad. Didn't make the cut. That was in 1869. Let's see, Sherman Antitrust Act. One of two attempts to take on big business, the other being the Interstate Commerce Act in 1887, set up the ICC, supposed to regulate the railroads. Remember, the Sherman Antitrust Act got used against unions. It broke up the Pullman strike because union is a combination in restraint of trade. All right, 1890 is also the closing of Frontier. Frederick Jackson Turner, we're never going to be the same anymore. All right, you don't have the safety valve. Remember, there's problems with it. The West was urbanized. The government paid for people to move out there by giving them free land and building the railroad and setting up irrigation projects. And, more people moved to the cities than moved to the West. The safety valve was really the city. So there's all kinds of problems with the thesis, but it kind of tells a lot about how we saw ourselves. All right. So that's 1890. Let's pause. Pretty good timing. I'm at 9:12 now, so about 27 minutes. So we're going to be a little over 30 minutes here. All right. What? Number 61. Brian the Lion. You shall not crucify mankind on a cross of gold. The populists support the Democrat. Brian, he's got to get not just farmers on his side, but factory workers. Wizard of Oz is all about that. He can't get the factory workers because they're threatened with their jobs if they support him. All right, so kind of the farmers' last stand there. 1898, Spanish-American War. McKinley gets pressured into it. He gets pressured into keeping the Philippines after the war. Three causes of the war: sinking of the Maine. Cuba wants its independence. Cuba, the sinking of the Maine. The yellow journalism. Teddy Roosevelt and the Rough Riders are the heroes. Treaty of Paris. We get Guam, Puerto Rico, and the Philippines. Philippines won their independence. Emilio Aguinaldo. McKinley preys on it, decides not to give it to him. You had that water cure thing. All right, McKinley gets killed in 1901. Chalgosh is the guy that shoots him, an anarchist. So Teddy Roosevelt becomes president. 1904, the Roosevelt corollary of the Monroe Doctrine, this macho man kind of diplomacy. Hey, we're the debt collector now. My big stick will kick y'all out, keep y'all out of the Western Hemisphere. His Navy will. 1914, 1918, World War I. All right, the isms cause it, along with the alliances. Wilson tries so hard to keep us neutral, but three things pull him in, thinking of the Lusitania. The Zimmerman Note and the submarine warfare, and then he makes it a war to end all wars and a war to make the world safe for democracy. Machine gun, trench warfare fought. The Espionage Act. Eugene Debs gets thrown in jail for being in favor of strikes and being against the war. All right. At the end of the war, the 18th and 19th Amendment. 18th was in 1919. 19th Amendment, 1920. Both of them coming out of the war were anti-German, so we're anti-beer, and we're pro-women because they worked hard for us in the war effort. All right, so then you got the 20s, Sacco and Vanzetti. Remember, put on trial. They're both Italian anarchists, atheists, and so they didn't really get a fair trial. Unclear whether they actually killed that young lady or not. All right, the other trial, 1925, the Scopes trial. Brian the Lion comes and argues against evolution, and Clarence Darrow puts him on the stand and examines him over the Bible, and Brian dies a few days later. All right, stock market crash, 1929. All right, speculation margin buying cause of the crash, October 29th, 1929. Okay, 7 more. The time is 9:15. We've been going 30 minutes. Pause for a second. Scoot this down. And we're off. Okay, number 71, the Depression. All right, what did the Depression do to people? I tell you what now, we're going to have an assignment once the test is over. What did coronavirus do to people? It's been hard. It's been hard on me. Been hard on our family. Stuck in one place, cabin fever, all that. 6 people in the same place. A lot of times, basically 6 adults at certain points. Now we're at 5 adults. My son went back down to Athens, but I bet it's been hard on y'all too in lots of different ways. So we read that thing, what did the Depression do to people? Well, people lost their homes. People were starving. Guys lost their identity. Women had to keep the family together. They came up with creative ways to hold on to their homes, the rent parties. I love that article, what the Depression do to people. What did coronavirus do to people? Okay. Interesting question. All right. So Roosevelt gets elected. Hoover's unpopular. The first 100 days, he's passing so many of those things. The New Deal's got the 3 R's: relief, recovery, reform. Relief is FERA. If it's got a W in it, it's recovery plus the CCC's his favorite. Then the reform, the FDIC, Social Security. Social Security is 1935. It's the second part of the second New Deal. FDIC, TVA, SEC to regulate the stock market. Okay, December 7, 1941, Pearl Harbor. The World War II kind of caused by the Depression. The rise of the dictators, then nobody stand up to the bully. Isolationist here in the United States, appeasement in Europe when Hitler demands the Sudetenland and they give it to him. So officially starts 1939. Now, Pearl Harbor, remember, we put an embargo on Japan after they invaded Indochina. And they didn't have any resources. So, they needed all their stuff, so they're mad at us. They attack us. Also, we're in their way for Pacific Empire. So, 41 to 45, World War II. You got D-Day, the atomic bomb, the Holocaust, Pearl Harbor, Battle of the Bulge. But the stuff at home's more important for test purposes. Rosie the Riveter, Great Migration, Double V Campaign, the Code Talkers, the Zoot Suit Riots, Peacetime Draft, War Production Gets Us Out of the Depression, and people kind of comparing coronavirus to the war at home. In certain ways, the collective effort necessary. All right, June 6, 1944 is D-Day. Got to take Europe back, storm the beaches of Normandy, take it back from Hitler, and that's it. All right, and the time is 9:18, so that was 33 minutes. Okay, now, Scouts Honor, now I'm asking you, memorize them. You got that set of stuff memorized, you see a date, you know what's coming up. And then, you'll be able to write about it, because this stuff. All right? Hey, I miss you. Sure do. Sure miss class. Miss having class. I'm going to try to set something up this week where we have one of those, it is my goal to have, Google Meet. I'm going to try to do that on Thursday. I hope. All right. What do I do right here?